Good morning. It's good to see you, Eugene.
Good
Folks,
morning.
I want to just mention something. We have a special guest for this particular conference, Eugene Soler, and he is in Puerto Rico and has been working as a volunteer as well with Hands for God, Manos por Dios, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, Eugene, that you actually have done about 6 of the projects with Michael.
One, two, yeah, five, six. Yeah, six would be the number. Yeah.
Okay. So you've actually been involved in not only rebuilding the homes, but you've also been involved in rebuilding the hope for the people there in Puerto Rico. And when we talked uh, one time before, I remember that you had apparently come to Puerto Rico by way, at that point, I thought that you had come by way of Chile. But then later I understood that you had been living in Spain, I guess in the Barcelona area of
Right.
Spain,
That's right.
that you then went from Spain. I guess that's where your father was living at that point, right?
That's correct. My father now is living in Barcelona, still living there. But I live with my mom and my dad there for like I don't know, 25 years,
Right.
something even more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're living in Spain.
hmm
Then uh, your mother was back in Puerto Rico,
hmm
and then she became ill.
That's
And that
correct.
happened, what, sometime within the last 5 years?
Yeah. So yeah, she's been dealing with cancer like for more than 10 years. She was dealing because she passed away 2 years ago. But before she passed away, she was, like I said, dealing like for 10 years, even more with cancer. She was like winning the cancer, beating it, and then the cancer would come back. It was breast cancer. So she was going back and forth with that until yeah, she passed away 2 years ago. Almost 2 years, not yet, but almost 2 years ago.
Okay, and you told me that your mother, I believe, had cancer,
hmm
and
Breast.
I mentioned to you that it's been several years ago. It was in 1983. I lost my mother to
Mhm.
cancer. She had
Yeah,
lung cancer, and it was a very aggressive form of cancer. And after not only having surgery, but she was able to live for about 2.5 years um, with the cancer until finally she passed. But the the interesting thing was that you were in Puerto Rico caring for and helping your mother, I guess, at that point.
hmm
Also, just to back up for a second, you had said something to me, if I recall, that these parents were your adopted parents. Was that
That is,
correct?
exactly. That is correct.
Okay.
That is,
So tell me something about your earliest childhood where you had been adopted and your parents at that time, I think, didn't you say you had lived in the States around the Baltimore area?
yes, that's correct. That's exactly correct. So until I born in Chile, and I was there like for 2 months. I was adopted before even gave to birth. So my dad and my mom is from Puerto Rico, and my dad's from Spain. They adopt me from this family of Chile. And then when I was the first 2 months, if I got the information right, I understand I was with my real mother for a month. She gave me the breast and everything, and after that, I was with this woman who take care of me. And then when my dad with my grandmother came to pick me up, because my mom at that time, the adoptive mom, was pregnant from my brother. biological. It's the correct word. And they picked me up from Chile and bring me here to the States. And not in Puerto Rico. We were moving from Puerto Rico to Baltimore, and for like 6 years. And after that, in 1992, for the Olympics, the Olympic Games in Barcelona, we went there because I got some family from in behalf of my father, and then we stayed there for yeah. After that, we stayed there. We lived in Spain from 6 until I was 27, 28, and I've been moving after that a little bit, but basically most of my life I've been in Barcelona.
Okay, so when you left Spain to go to Puerto Rico, you were then, as we said, caring for and being with your mother while she was ill.
That's correct. That's what forced me to come back here, and then I stayed because she was sick, and I stayed here like with her for the last 6 months before when we already knew that she was probably gonna not get over this last cancer she got, and then we stayed with her so we could, say goodbye and stay the last months of her life, next to her. And after that, well, we were not supposed to stay, but we decided to do so. I talk in plural because I'm talking because it was a decision I take with my brother. We took with my brother, and yeah, that's how it happened. We just, we had some heritage from my mom, and it was not that easy. Here the bureaucracy is quite slow in Puerto Rico. I mean, so instead of getting anxious of thinking when we're going to leave because we had no intention of staying here in Puerto Rico, we decided to just stay and enjoy the time we were here and enjoy the heritage, enjoy the family we got here. So yeah, since 2 years ago, we've been here, and then it's when I meet Mikael in all this huge change of everything, and yeah,
But
you know
during
how.
that time, you also had enrolled in school in
Yes, right.
San Juan, right, in the area of San Juan, Puerto Rico. But
That's
you
correct.
also joined the National Guard.
Yep, that's
So
correct too.
you've had quite a experience while being in Puerto Rico after your mother passed away.
Mhm.
So you were able to uh, enroll in school, and I think you told me that you're training to be an electrician,
That's right.
um, and then uh, you also joined the National Guard. But
Mhm.
you also explained that you have a waiting period. There's something
That's
like six
correct.
months
So
or something.
right now, I'm not in that. I enlisted in National Guard. I was there for like 3, 4 months from October to January this year. And after that, for some personal reasons, I had to, I continued. Now I have to continue my studies that with now with the coronavirus, obviously everything changed. But the principal plan in January was I had to wait for 6 months and I have to enlist again if I decide to do so. But until then, I have all this period of finishing my classes, because if I get into the National Guard, you have to go to the basic training. I'm not sure if it was in I think it was Oklahoma, and then you have to interrupt
You have to
everything.
come back to you'd have to come back to the United States.
That's correct. Yeah, and you have to, whatever you're doing, even if you're working, you're studying, you have to interrupt that for 6 months, because the basic training is the basic training. You're part from the military, so you have to do so no matter what.
Because it's a military enlistment, even though you're going to serve in the guard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when we spoke before, one of the things that did come out was um, the ability for you to work while you're waiting on school and
Mm-hmm.
enlistment and everything. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you said that you were doing work um, setting up beach furniture and umbrellas and things of that nature
That's
for, I would think that's for tourists that would have been coming into Puerto Rico.
There is stories, but I must say there are more people, locals, than tourists these days. So most of people I'm attending to are Puerto Ricans.
Okay, so those people are able to go to the beaches and I'm talking about now with the
Oh, no, no. Now,
distancing
now
and
it's all
everything.
absolutely
They're not permitted to do that now, right?
absolutely all suspended right now. There's nothing. So I'm jobless, you say? Like no job? I'm working doing some classes for people like like in Skype. That's a way I'm earning a little bit of money while we're waiting for everything to get normal again. And then I'm doing classes online, of course, because it's because of federal law, federal how do you say that, orders. The classes have to go on, but it's
Right,
all online now. So everything like we're doing right now, like in a conference, I'm
right.
doing classes. So yeah. But
Okay,
yeah, the beaches are closed. Everything is closed, Richard, right now.
I know it's that way for people all over the world, really. I mean, it's
Exactly.
unbelievable the amount of
Mhm.
penetration that this virus has had over the entire world.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
overwhelming.
it also, and I realize the virus is more recent, but prior to that, and in Puerto Rico was devastated by not one, two hurricanes.
Hmm. Hmm.
The first one, I believe, was Hurricane Irma.
That's
And
correct.
the second major hurricane was Hurricane Maria.
Hmm.
And Hurricane Maria destroyed an awful lot of the island in Puerto Rico. I know that there were some areas that were much worse than others, but in that particular timeline, which has been a little over 2 years, uh, that is when uh, the Lord led Mishael Perón to Puerto Rico
Hmm.
to be there to help people. It was not only to just help them from the standpoint of building their roofs and helping them as far as their homes are concerned, but he was there to show them and is there to show them the love of God. For so many of the people, and I'm sure you can agree, so many of the people there felt like they were abandoned and that they were forgotten,
Absolutely.
and many of them, I'm sure, prayed that they wanted someone to come, and obediently, uh, Mishael came and uh, and began doing the work that was laid out there, which was tremendous task, but taking each individual home as it was being presented and doing volunteer work. And that's where both you and I believe your girlfriend, didn't your girlfriend come in from Spain as well?
Uh, yeah, well, he's friend, but he's not girlfriend, but yes, he's a friend. She's a friend
Okay.
from. Yeah.
Well, I'm, she was a girl, a
That's
female,
right.
and she came in from Spain to be able to, I guess, to visit, but also she became involved in volunteer effort along with you.
That's right. That's right.
And I can remember there was actually a video where she was on the video, you were on the video,
Hmm.
Trevor was on the video.
That's
Trevor is
right. That's
another one of the Hands for God volunteers. He's also on the board of directors for Hands for God, Manos por Dia.
right.
But tell me a little bit about your experience working with Mishael and Trevor during the time that they were there. And I believe at that point, the village that they were in, was that Hatillo or was that a
Luquillo,
different village?
Luquillo. It was Luquillo.
Okay.
That was this one you're talking that day was the first time I was working with Mikael, and I have to be honest with you. The first time I met Mikael, that was in Luquillo, I was going with this girl, and we went there just visiting and to have some Airbnb and have some time off from San Juan. And then there was Mikael. I remember seeing him, and he was talking with someone, doing his thing like Mikael is, because he's always spreading the word and the work he's doing. And at the first time, if I being honest with you, I was kind of testing him when he came to me and talking to me, saying, I'm doing this and I'm helping. And he asked me for money. Okay. And the first for me was, I was like feeling like, no way, man. No, you don't ask me for money just like that. And I mean, I could believe you, but I heard that so many times. People telling me I'm helping this, helping that. You're never, I have no proof for you, but give me money so I can help people. Okay. So, and first, and I have to say too, I don't believe, I'm not a Christian. I never grew up in Christianity. I understand the values of Christianity and everything, but I'm a non-believer, to say it somehow. Okay. And he was talking about God and how he hears God speaking through him and helping him. And at first I was totally not believing anything he was saying. I was like, oh, sorry, man, I don't believe you. And I was trying to test him at some point, and I said, what if I can help you, like being there physically? Because I have no money. I don't have that much money to help you, really. I mean, I could give you maybe 20 bucks or something, but let me go with you, because I was like, probably this is all a lie and I'm not gonna see it. Even with all the video he showed me, but I was like, this, he could get it from anywhere. I don't know. I was not open mind at all.
Right.
And then I tried to put him in a compromise, like, let's see if it's true what you're saying. And he said, really, you want to help? Okay, that's perfect, you can be volunteer. And I was like, what, this guy maybe is for real. Okay, let's see what happens. And this girl you were talking, and I was with, she was like, I like the vibe of this guy, because she wasn't there, she was like just listening, doing her stuff. And then I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna help this guy. He said, maybe he's legit. He's serious about what he's doing. You want to come too? He was like, he can come as well. Will you guys come and help me out? You see, I'm doing a great thing here. And I was like, okay, let's see it. Maybe it's not total BS. Let's see if it's true. And then we went there the next week. I called him, and he was like, oh wow, you called, because I don't like follow people, just come and see. He sent me in a direction with the GPS. I went there, and when I arrived, he was in the roof already, like working. And and the first thing that it really impacted me was the woman who he was helping was absolutely full of joy in the eyes when he saw us coming. And she was like, she the first thing I remember, Miguel, was ask her, do you speak Spanish? I don't, so ask her about, and I was like, please, lady, tell me about this guy. How do you know this guy? Is he for real? And she told me, I've been praying since Maria, because I tried help, nobody helped me, not even his family. I mean, it was really crazy. She was like feeling super alone, like you said, like totally abandoned from everything. She was praying and praying and praying. And Mikael appeared someday, like, hey, God told me you need help, so I'm here to help you, okay? And yeah, for me, it was really overwhelming. We were shocked, okay, with this girlfriend of mine, and me were like, wow, this is crazy, I mean, I do believe in something, maybe not in the Christian way, but I do believe in this kind of stuff, like, in the values of people helping each other. And I even do believe in there's like something unknown or force, call it cosmos, call it God, whatever, that is there somehow, okay? Maybe I don't express it the same way Mikael does, or maybe you do, but I kind of see that was legit, that what he was doing and how it was working. And I saw it in the eyes of that woman. And it was amazing. So we started helping. I learned a lot, because for me it was some way, Mikael is teaching me a lot of good stuff, because I have no idea to work with wood. And he's like a machine with the hands, and he knows about mechanics, knows a lot of things. And I don't know how to explain it. It's really overwhelming, just how people see, how you can see the gratefulness in people. And Mika is always saying, don't think thanks to me, say thanks to God. You have seen him in the videos, like always, he got this signal and just point up in the sky, because it's the Lord above who's helping and doing this, right? So yeah, this was my first impression with him. So it was amazing. And after that, it was like, man, I remember going back with the car too as well. When I was coming back we worked like for 7 hours straight. It was crazy. Was super tired, but feeling amazing. And I was going back home, and I remember this amazing sky and the sun and the light and everything. We were going back like, wow, this maybe is a miracle, something like that. It was, I really enjoyed that first visit with Mikael, and it was really touching. And he after that we just keep up growing up with the relationship. The girl had to go like 2 days after that, and she was like, wow, man, you should have to keep going, keep in contact with this guy. And I say, yeah, definitely, man, this guy is for real. I always feel sometimes everyone, I think, got this calling to help other people, but they just don't do the first step to do so. And Mikael is kind of there, like pushing a little bit. The last step is he's pushing people to help, and just doing so. He also got, of course, this talking. He got a lot of talk that sometimes people is like, whoa, what happened to me? I understand, because he just goes to people and say, hey man, I'm helping people, help me out, he goes like super aggressive sometimes, like, look, I'm doing this. I was like, the first time I was like shocked, but I did something inside me told me, man, try it, try it. Maybe he's lying, maybe he's not. What if he's legit and he's for real? And he was. So, oh, sorry for that. So since then, I've been helping him, and I mean, there's so many people that need help that this is a whole time life job for sure. It's not like you decide when to stop, but because there's no end to it. That's the thing. So yeah, it's been an amazing experience. It's what I'm trying to say with all this.
Well, you have phrased it very well. The um, the one thing that I guess is the realization that so many of us have is that, as you said, uh, God is speaking to all of us. We're
Mm-hmm,
not all listening in the same way,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
but for some, we listen, and in some cases, we do what He is saying to us. In other cases, we don't. There's some listening and not obeying, and there's others that listen and obey.
mm-hmm.
What you see uh, and I'm not making more out of Mishael, I'm just simply saying he is able to listen, and in some cases, he doesn't want to do what the Lord is saying for him to do, but he resigns himself to that, and he goes ahead and he does it. And usually, what happens is, because he's willing, God sends others like yourself to help.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it from the standpoint of how you arrived in Puerto Rico at the time when there was a need for help, you obviously knew there was a need for help, but you didn't necessarily know where it was that you needed the help. And then you meet Michelle, and you become acquainted with Hands for God, Manos por Dios, and you begin to talk to the people who have been, as you say, they've been praying, and God sends. Now, we're not going to just say Michelle, because He sent you. He sent you were there, and then you go and you do the work together, and you begin to see how the people respond. I mean, there are people all over that need to know that God loves them and that He cares about them. And there's a statement, and I'm not sure that we covered this in our earlier conversation, but I just want to mention there's a statement about, and I talked with Blake Rogers, who you may uh, be familiar with. He and his wife Valerie,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I know who's the guy. Yeah.
they have a another home in
Mhm.
uh, I guess it's in Hatia, and they uh, they provided that home
Mm-hmm.
for uh, Hands for God, for Mishael, for Trevor, and when Trevor and I believe Matt came down, and they brought their sons with them, Gavin and I can't think of Matt's son's name, but anyway, they brought their sons with them, so they had children along with them, and they were staying in uh, the Rogers home there in Puerto Rico. Well, I had the opportunity to have a conference call with Blake, and which also went very very well. But the conversation and what we had been discussing, what you and I had discussed, was how uh, God will put people in positions they don't necessarily know that they're there for that reason. You probably didn't know
Mm-hmm.
until it became more obvious to you. Now, here's the thing that I was saying with Blake, and I'll repeat it for you. There is in the Bible, there's a phrase. It's written in the book of James. And James, as you can recall from, I'm sure, biblical background, maybe teaching, he was the brother, the physical brother of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
James was. And James said he had this conversation in instruction about faith without works. And he was talking about you
Mm-hmm.
can show me your faith, but without works, your faith is really not, it's not
Exactly.
alive. It's not really doing something.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so what he is saying is that there are many people who hear the word and they study the word. That doesn't mean that the word has any less value. The
Mm-hmm.
word being the Bible. We we have many people who hear the word, and that helps increase their faith.
Mm-hmm.
But the action behind it is doing the word.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Totally true.
the doing of the word is what you experienced when you were helping people there, right in your own country there in Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
You experienced the people that had prayed and yet didn't necessarily know how help was going to come. And
Mm-hmm.
when it did come, they began to see, well, this was not just somebody that was putting a roof on their house, although that was being done, but there was a message that was being worked out, that faith in action was taking place.
Mm-hmm.
You were a part of that, even though you are a part of that, even though you may say that you don't profess a relationship with the one who put you there. But I assure you, he knows everything about you. You and I had a conversation
Mm-hmm.
earlier when we had discussed this, and the scripture in Jeremiah says that, and this applies to everybody, but it happens to be spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. It says that before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. God saying, I knew you. And I had a conversation with somebody not too long ago, and that was the question, if God knew us before we were formed, we know that scientifically how a embryo is formed, the way that the baby is actually born, and how the development takes place, it's all miraculous. But still, before we were formed, before the egg and the sperm came together, before that, God knew us. So the question was, if God knew us before we were formed, isn't it also conceivable that we knew him in a way that perhaps after we're born and have the opportunity to grow, that we don't continue to know him in that manner? And I think when we know him in the manner that he discusses, we are able to hear him. We are able to acknowledge him in a way that perhaps after we're born, we somehow become distracted. All the things of the world, everything that's going on around us distracts us. And one of the things about Mishael, and this is not just in his case, but certainly it's demonstrated, he tries to keep himself from being distracted.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to get all involved with all of the other things that are going on. He wants to be focused on what God wants him to do, and he wants to hear God and do what he says. Many people could strive for that same type of relationship. You, without even realizing it, are striving for that same type of relationship. And God's introducing you to a means of being able to see that done. You are actually bringing, not only rebuilding the homes, but you're rebuilding hope. You are, the whole purpose of the organization being called Hands for God is that he's using your hands, Mishael's hands, Trevor's hands, Blake, all the others that he sends. He's using their hands to accomplish his work. He's using you, Eugene. And I said this to you when we were speaking before, and that is that when someone openly and honestly says that they don't believe in what they're looking at, in most cases, is religion has not proven to them that God truly exists and he's concerned about people right now, today. But what is different, and this is the difference, Christianity, although it is referred to as a religion, but Christianity is a relationship where you come to a place that you realize God is, he exists. Now, his identity to many people is, there are different ways that they try to identify him. He does identify himself, but that's still a very complex issue about the Trinity and how God is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as all one individual. But he is. And the other side of this picture is that you, Eugene, and me, everybody that he created, mankind, is also a three-part being. In other words, you are not just a body, you are a spirit that lives in a body, and you have an eternal soul. You have a part of you that God designed that continues to live forever. It was never designed to experience death. Sin came into this world and death followed. But before sin entered the world, there was no death. Man was designed to live forever in the presence and full relationship of God. And so from that vantage point, everybody is in a position to know him. But to know him, we come to a place where we acknowledge that we are sinners. And it doesn't mean that everybody is the same as far as the type of sin. Disobedience to God could mean he spoke to us and we didn't do what he said. That's a sin. That's easy enough for us to understand. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is that we come to acknowledge, we begin to realize that we are the actual creation that God made. He made us in his image. And in the book of Genesis, in the Bible, mm-hmm. it talks about how man was created. And I didn't mean for this to become a teaching segment, but I just want to explain. As God is a spirit, and he is Father in the sense of how he treats his children, all of his creation, and he has a son, which is Jesus Christ, in Spanish, Jesus, in mm-hmm. so many other languages interpreted in their language. In Hebrew, Yeshua. Mm-hmm. There are so many which are the same name spoken in that language. Now, mm-hmm. that doesn't mean that he's Buddha, and that doesn't mean that he is a Shinto god, or that he's a monkey god from the Hindus, or anything like that. Those are idols. Those mm-hmm. are things that people worship that have no power. But he is the creator of the whole universe. So how did he make man? He made us a spirit, and he made us a body that we inhabit, and we have an eternal soul. So we are a triune being ourselves. We are a trinity as well. Spirit, soul, and body. He is Father, Son, and Spirit. There was a time when the Spirit would rest on men throughout history. But when Jesus came, he changed the paradigm. He changed the means for man to be able to have a relationship with God. How did he do that? He died, and in another week, we'll be celebrating what is called not just Easter, we're celebrating Resurrection Day. Mm-hmm. And the reason that we celebrate the resurrection is, first of all, there had to be a death before there could be a resurrection. Mm-hmm. The death was the price for your sin and my sin. Jesus, who was Almighty God, came to this earth born as a baby, went through all of the things that you and I experience, and perhaps even more, and without sin. He never disobeyed the will of his Father. Even though he was presented opportunities to do it, he would not do it. And so when he knew he was there, his purpose was to destroy the works of the devil. The devil is the one that introduced sin to mankind. You know the story of the Garden of Eden, eating of the forbidden fruit, but those things are how sin entered. The result of sin carries through all the generations that follow. It's in our bloodline. We are born with that trait inside us. God takes his own son, sacrifices him on a cruel cross. He is crucified. He is dead. He is buried. He then, 3 days later, comes into a fullness of life. He's resurrected. When that happened, death no longer had a victory. There was no longer a sting of death. He overcame it. He overpowered death. He proved he was God. Man couldn't do that. God only can do that. And so what Jesus did for you and I was to allow us to have then a relationship with him in the same way that it was when we were created. Like he said, he knew us before we were formed in our mother's womb. In that manner, we are coming to know him without the distractions of the world, regardless of what the circumstances may be. There may be storms, there may be earthquakes, there may be pestilence and famine, there may be murders and all of the terrible things that are going on in this world. But there's life eternal with him. So regardless of what happens to us here, we have an eternity to live with him in the manner that he created us. He restored us to that fellowship with him. Well, Eugene, I know that I was not intending to do that in this call, but I felt that it was of particular importance for you because what you've been able to experience in the last several months is God working in a way that many people didn't think he would work. Meeting the needs of the people, not because they were worthy and not because they were deserving, but because he loves them and he wants them to know that he loves them. And that's why whenever Mishael does anything in his particular area of help, he doesn't want them to give credit to him. He wants them to give credit to God.
That's right.
And in reality, they've been praying to God to send help. God sends the help, and then they begin to start thanking just the help instead of giving credit to God, giving glory to God. And what you experienced, if I can say this, is you began to see they acknowledged that it was God that was doing this.
Most of people are grateful to God when this happens. They say, "Wow, this is this prayers worth this prayers because they finally heard."
God is answering their prayers. He's also answering the most important prayer of your life, the prayer in your heart to know him. He's showing you ways that he's using you. And I told Michelle the other day, I said, Eugene is much closer to coming to a real relationship with the Father, coming to a real relationship through the Son, and actually being not just the Holy Spirit resting on, but indwelling, in living in you. The difference in you and in, say, Michelle, is that he's a man, just like you're a man. But he surrendered all of what he is to God. And God fills him with his spirit. And his spirit speaks to him continually, saying, go here, do this, help this one. You need to be at this particular beach, or you need to be at this particular point. Why?
Yes.
Because God knows the need before we do. And he puts the person that's obedient there.
Mm-hmm.
He put you there, Eugene, because even though you haven't professed a religious knowledge, you are beginning to comprehend the reality of the living God. And because of that, you are actually far closer than you may even realize.
Mm-hmm.
You'll come to a place, there's no pressure about this. There's some people that would say, well, all you need to do is say the sinner's prayer and tell God you're a sinner and that you need his forgiveness, and ask him to forgive you, and he will do that. That's true. There's no issue there. But sometimes God has to show you himself before you will say, I recognize who you are. And when you say, I recognize who you are, then you're certainly also saying, and I recognize who I am. I realize where I have fallen short. And we all have. None of us are without sin. The difference is he chooses to forgive our sin and cleanse us of all of the unrighteousness. He chooses to live within us so that we can do his work. Hands for God, Manos por Dios, is really his work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not the only organization or group, but it's certainly one. God has many hands. Yours, Trevor's, Michael's, your friend that came from Spain or from Chile, all of those people. Who came in? Somebody came in?
Yeah, my brother, he came to pick up
Are
something.
your brothers there?
Mm-hmm.
Introduce him.
Saludar for a moment. It's Richard. This is my brother Juan.
Hi, Richard.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It looks like you're getting ready to go to the beach or something.
Kind of. I was just doing some clothes, and I might go to run a little bit.
Okay. Are you younger than Eugene or are you older?
Younger, 9 months and 15 days younger.
How much younger?
9 months and 15 days.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Good to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay.
Well, we have spent quite a bit of time, and I hope that it has been helpful. I really am learning a lot about this type of communications, this video conferencing. You know,
Yeah,
when people can't get together,
Mhm.
like on an individual basis, you have to be like 6 feet apart or maybe even further. But you know, with this media, this form, you can connect people all over the world.
Yeah, yeah, it's a wonderful thing, really.
It's amazing.
Family, friends, with everyone, and just even if we are like kind of in the quarantine, it's quite amazing to keep in contact with everyone.
And all the time that we're able to be together
Mhm,
by Zoom or whichever video form,
mhm.
we are able to share things. And I think it's not because we are able to do more because of being quarantined, but it gives us more time to
Mhm.
reflect on what it is that we're supposed to do.
Totally agree. Totally agree. It's time for reflection.
That this is just one way to uh, to hear that and to share that with others. So,
Mhm.
Eugene, I really appreciate your willingness um, to do this once again.
Of course.
Um,
My pleasure, Richard.
and I appreciate so much your obedience to go where the need is
Mhm.
as God reveals it to you. And I'm going to be praying not only that you'll be able to do more of the work because I know that He will use you, but I'm going to be praying that you're going to be able to. He may, I don't know how He may speak in this particular case. He may wake you up in the middle of the night and He may be calling you by name. And you're going to say, it's almost like you might be thinking your brother is calling you by name,
Mhm.
but he's not calling you by name. Maybe he's sleeping or maybe he's not there. But I really believe that you're going to hear God's voice. And when you hear His voice, it is undeniable. You'll know that voice. And when you probably have been hearing it, but what I'm saying is
I,
you
th- I
hear it
think
with such a clarity that it'll either wake you up or knock you over because He's got that much power just in His voice, in His name. So I thank you for being uh, able to have this time together.
Mhm.
Uh, and I appreciate just your openness to be able to share. Hopefully, we'll be able to do another call and maybe we'll get you and Michelle on the phone at the same time or on the call at the same time. And we'll
Sounds good.
have an opportunity to share some things that God is doing. We look forward to that. What I'm going to do at this stage is I'm going to cut off the video.
Okay.
We will stop recording, but that won't take us out of the meeting. We'll still be able to talk.